It was supposed to be a routine checkup, nothing more. I'd been feeling dizzy lately, overworked, maybe a little burned out. I booked an appointment with Dr. Klein, my family doctor since college. He'd always been calm, kind, and methodical. That morning, the clinic was unusually quiet. The nurse barely spoke as she led me to the examination room. I remember the clock ticking loudly. Dr. Klein came in, smiled faintly, and asked the usual questions. I told him about the dizziness, the fatigue, the strange headaches that came and went. He nodded, scribbling something in my file, but his eyes were off. They flicked toward the door more than once, like he was distracted or afraid. Then, as I stood to leave, he did something strange. He shook my hand and slipped a folded note into my palm. His voice was steady, but low. "Don't read this here," he said. "Just take care of yourself." When I reached my car and opened the note, my heart froze. It said, "Don't go home. Run." At first, I laughed nervously. It had to be a mistake. Maybe he wrote that for someone else. But the handwriting was definitely his. "Don't go home." Why? I sat in the driver's seat, gripping the paper so tightly it crumpled. My apartment was only 15 minutes away. My cat, Luna, was there. My laptop. My life. Why would my doctor tell me not to go home? I thought about calling him, but my phone buzzed before I could. A text from an unknown number. "Go somewhere safe. Don't ask questions. Trust Klein." My stomach dropped. This wasn't a joke. I started the car and pulled out of the parking lot, my pulse pounding. I didn't know where to go, so I just drove. Somewhere. Anywhere. Away. By the time I reached the outskirts of town, the sun had dipped low behind the hills. I stopped at a gas station to breathe and think. The fluorescent lights hummed above me as I leaned against the car, trying to make sense of it all. That's when I noticed the man. He was sitting in a black SUV parked across the lot, sunglasses on even though it was almost dark. He wasn't pumping gas. He wasn't on his phone. He was just watching me. I turned away, pretending not to notice. My hands shook as I reached for my phone again, intending to call Dr. Klein. But before I could, the man's car engine started. Slowly, deliberately, he began to follow as I drove away. I didn't know it yet, but that was the moment my old life ended. My phone rang, an unknown number again. I hesitated, then answered. "Kira, it's me," came a whisper. It was Dr. Klein. My chest tightened. "Doctor, what's happening? Who is following me?" "Listen carefully," he said. "Don't go home, and don't use your cards or your GPS. They're tracking you. Go to the old Evergreen Motel off Highway 6. Room 12. I'll meet you there in an hour." "What are you talking about? Who's they?" But the line went dead. My fingers trembled as I turned off my phone and tossed it in the glove compartment. The SUV was still behind me, keeping distance, but always there. I pressed harder on the gas. The fear was real now, sharp and suffocating. The motel looked like it hadn't seen guests in years. Paint peeled from the wooden siding, and the neon sign buzzed weakly in the dark. I parked near the back and slipped inside room 12. It smelled like old cigarettes and dust. There was a single lamp, a stained bedspread, and silence. I locked the door and sat on the edge of the bed, trying to calm my racing thoughts. Minutes felt like hours. Then, a knock. 3 slow taps. I froze. "Who is it?" "It's me," came Dr. Klein's voice. I opened the door just enough to see his face, pale, tense, eyes darting around. He slipped inside quickly and shut the door behind him. "You did the right thing," he said, sitting down. You're in danger. Klein opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. My name was written on the front. Inside were copies of medical charts, test results, and something else. Photographs. Grainy images of me walking to work, entering my apartment, even eating at a cafe. I gasped. What is this? Who took these? He looked me in the eye. Not me. Them. Who is them? I demanded. He hesitated, then said quietly, a research division called Varitan Labs. You were part of a genetic study years ago, remember? The sleep deprivation one you did for extra college money. I nodded slowly. It was a blur from my early 20s. I'd signed some papers, done a few nights of monitored sleep tests, then never thought about it again. They never stopped monitoring you, he said. They discovered something unique in your DNA, and now they want you back. Before I could respond, headlights swept across the motel window. Dr. Klein's face went white. They've found us. He grabbed my wrist. Go out the back. We ran. My heart hammered as we darted through the shadows behind the motel. A door slammed somewhere behind us. Voices shouted. We reached his car, hidden behind a row of dumpsters. He started the engine, and we sped off down the service road. I looked back. The black SUV was already on our tail. Bullets cracked the air, shattering the rear window. I screamed, Klein, what are they doing? They can't let you out, he said grimly. You're the key to something they built, something they can't control anymore. We drove through the night, finally stopping in a wooded area miles from town. The car's headlights illuminated a small cabin. Inside, Klein lit a lantern and sat across from me, his face gaunt but determined. Project Luma, he began, was supposed to enhance the human body's ability to heal. You were one of the few with a dormant gene they could activate. But it didn't just improve healing, it altered perception, memory, even instinct. You've probably felt it, knowing things before they happen, feeling danger before you see it. I swallowed hard. The dreams, the headaches, the unexplainable déjà vu, they all came rushing back. He continued, they want to replicate it, Kira. They've been experimenting on others, and it's gone wrong. Very wrong. My voice was barely a whisper. Why tell me now? Because you're the only one who can stop them. The wind howled outside the cabin. I stared at Klein, trying to absorb his words. You're saying I'm some kind of experiment? Not just that, he said softly. You're my daughter. The world tilted. I was part of the project too, he continued, tears in his eyes. Before I became your doctor, I worked for Varitan. I helped develop the gene therapy. When I saw what it did to you, how fast you healed, how your mind changed, I smuggled you out of the program. I changed your identity. I tried to give you a normal life. My knees went weak. I sat down, trembling. You should have told me. I wanted to, he said, voice cracking, but they would have found us both. For a long time, we said nothing, just the sound of rain and the weight of truth between us. The next morning, I woke up to find Klein already packing. They won't stop, he said. We need to go public. If we can get proof out, Varitan can't silence you. But what about Luna, my apartment? He shook his head. They've already been there. My chest tightened with grief, not just for my cat or my home, but for the life I'd lost overnight. Klein placed a flash drive in my hand. Everything you need to expose them is on this, but it has to be you. They'll expect me, not you. I looked at the drive, then at him. And if they catch us? He gave a sad smile. Then run again. and never stop until you're free. We left the cabin before sunrise, the air sharp and cold. Klein's plan was simple: reach an old journalist friend of his in another state, someone who could leak the truth safely. But as we drove through the misty hills, memories began flooding back. Images I didn't remember living. White rooms, wires, voices saying my name through speakers, a child crying, me begging to go home. Kira, Klein said gently, noticing my silence. They might have done more than we thought. The memories, they could have implanted false ones too. My hands gripped the dashboard. You mean, I don't even know what's real? He nodded, eyes dark with guilt. But I promise you this, who you are now is real. That's all that matters. For the first time, I saw him not as my doctor or even my father, but as a man trying to fix an unforgivable mistake. At a rest stop just past the county line, Klein went to get gas while I waited in the car. That's when I saw her, a woman in a red coat standing by the vending machines. She looked ordinary, except she was staring directly at me. When I met her gaze, she smiled faintly and mouthed something. They're here. Before I could react, a black van turned into the lot. Two men stepped out, suits, earpieces, moving fast. I shouted, Klein, get in the car. We barely made it back onto the road before they reached us. Tires screeched, horns blared, and the van followed close behind. Klein swerved off an exit toward an abandoned warehouse district. The woman in the red coat had vanished. But something told me she wasn't an enemy. We took shelter in one of the warehouses. Klein bolted the door and paced, thinking. They're not giving up, he muttered. There's a tracker somewhere, probably on the car. I searched my bag nervously, pulling out the flash drive he'd given me. You said this has everything on Veriton. What exactly is on it? Proof, he said, not just of what they did to you, but what they're planning. Project Luma wasn't just about healing. It was about control. He connected the drive to an old laptop and opened the files. Documents appeared, genetic codes, experiment logs, and a list of subjects. I froze when I saw one of the names. Luna Klein. I blinked. Luna? My cat's name? Klein's face paled. That's not a coincidence. They encoded a tracker in your pet's microchip to keep tabs on you without suspicion. My stomach turned. They used her to watch me. He nodded sadly. They used everything. We heard footsteps outside, the sound of boots crunching gravel. Klein motioned for silence and peered through a crack in the window. They found us, he whispered. But before we could escape, the door burst open. The woman in the red coat entered, hands raised. Wait, I'm not with them, she said quickly. My name's Elise. I used to work for Veriton. I'm here to help. Klein raised his gun, suspicion etched in his face. Why should we believe you? Because I'm the one who sent you that text, she said, looking at me. And because they've turned your research into something far worse. She pulled out a small drive. They're developing a formula to mass produce what's in Kira's DNA. But the test subjects, most of them didn't survive. My heart clenched. So they'll kill to perfect it? Elise nodded grimly. They already have. We followed Elise to a safe house on the edge of the next city. She showed us data proving Veriton's reach. Politicians, hospitals, even military branches were tied to the project. But something in Klein had shifted. He looked tired, nervous, like a man hiding something. That night, as Elise slept, I confronted him. You're not telling me everything. He avoided my eyes. It doesn't matter now. It does, I insisted. You owe me the truth. He sighed. Varaton didn't just use your DNA. They used mine. You and I share the same mutation, but it manifests differently. You see the future in fragments. I feel it. That's how I knew when to warn you. My heart pounded. You feel it? He nodded slowly. And I can feel something else too. He looked toward the door. They're coming again. Within minutes, headlights flashed outside the safe house. Shouts echoed. Elise grabbed her gun. They tracked us, she said. We have to move. Now. Klein shoved the flash drive into my hand. Go with her. I'll hold them off. No, I shouted. I'm not leaving you. But he was already moving toward the door, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Like something within him had awakened. Elise dragged me out the back as the front of the house exploded in fire and smoke. I screamed his name, but the flames swallowed everything. From a distance, we watched the safe house collapse. He knew this would happen, Elise said softly. He sacrificed himself to buy us time. Tears burned my eyes, but deep down, I felt something strange. A pulse in my chest, as if his heartbeat still echoed in me. Elise and I reached the city and went to her contact, a journalist named Devon. We gave him the drive and told him everything. As he scrolled through the files, his eyes widened. This could bring down half the biotech industry. He promised to publish the story, but first, we needed proof of Varaton's active lab. Elise knew where it was, beneath an abandoned hospital outside town. We broke in that night. The air reeked of chemicals. Machines hummed under flickering lights. Then I saw them, rows of containment pods. Inside were people, asleep, alive, or something in between. One of them looked just like me. My breath caught. That's me? Elise whispered. A clone. They made backups in case the original didn't survive. It was like staring into a mirror that had seen too much pain. Suddenly, alarms blared. Guards flooded the room. Elise fired a warning shot, and we ducked behind a console. A voice came over the intercom, smooth, familiar, cold. Hello, Kira. It was Dr. Varaton, the project's founder. You've done well, he said, but you don't understand what you're destroying. Project Luma isn't about power. It's about salvation. Humanity is dying, and you're the cure. His words made my blood run cold. You're experimenting on people? To save billions, he replied. You call it cruelty, I call it sacrifice. I looked at the pods, the faces, the bodies, and then I looked at my hands, trembling but alive. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was the key to saving others. But not like this. Not through suffering. I turned to Elise. We end it tonight. We fought our way through the lab, alarms screaming, glass shattering. I found the central console, the power source feeding every pod. But before I could destroy it, Varaton appeared, gun in hand. You're not a hero, Kira. You're an anomaly. Without you, humanity falls, he fired. The bullet struck my shoulder, but instead of pain, light erupted from the wound. My skin glowed, my veins shimmered, and the energy rippled outward. Varaton stumbled back, shielding his eyes. I realized then, this was what Luma had created, not a weapon, but a force of renewal, the light that healed. I reached out, touching the console. The entire system overloaded, white light flooding the room. And then, silence. When I woke, the lab was gone, reduced to ash and twisted metal. Elise knelt beside me, tears streaking her face. You did it, she whispered. You freed them. Around us, the containment pods had shattered. The subjects were breathing, alive. The light had healed them, not destroyed. Klein's voice echoed faintly in my mind. You're the only one who can stop them. He'd been right, but what he didn't say was that stopping them meant becoming something more than human. Devon's report went viral days later. Veriton Labs was dismantled, arrests made, files exposed. The world began to question what progress really meant. As for me, I disappeared. Sometimes when I pass by hospitals or see people recover from impossible injuries, I feel that pulse again. The light still within me. Maybe Klein's gift wasn't a curse after all. Maybe it was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, we are the cure we're waiting for.